The boy's hand is shaking, not from cold, not from fear he understands, but from something he's trying not to show. The guard notices it before the cameras do. Prince Louis stands too still, eyes fixed on the floor, knuckles white around a toy he never carries indoors. Protocol says keep position. Instinct says move. Behind him, a door clicks where it should not. The sound reaches him first, not loud, not urgent. A soft discontinuity in the corridor's rhythm. Shoes moving where they should, voices distant and measured, the low hum of the ventilation system constant. Everything correct, except one absence. The boy is not moving. The guard notices it before he understands it. The child stands near the eastern wall, just inside the sightline of camera 3, hands at his sides, posture too controlled. Not frozen in fear, held, as if he has been told very precisely not to move. The guard slows his step by half a pace. No one else reacts. Staff pass at a respectful distance. A junior aide nods as she walks by, eyes forward. The corridor continues functioning. The boy does not look up. He is holding something small in his right hand, a folded strip of blue ribbon frayed at one end. It does not belong here. That ribbon is from the nursery level, not the ceremonial wing. It should not have crossed security. The guard adjusts his path without breaking formation, bringing himself one step closer than protocol allows. He does not touch the child. He does not speak. The boy's breathing is shallow, measured, controlled in a way children do not manage unless instructed. The guard's earpiece murmurs with routine updates, timing confirmations, floor checks. He does not respond. His attention narrows to the boy's knuckles, pale around the ribbon. A flicker of movement registers at the far end of the corridor. A figure pauses near the archway, an adult presence that should not be here at this moment. Not unscheduled, not unnoticed. Yet no alert sounds. The boy's eyes shift, not toward the guard but toward the polished floor. That is the moment the guard feels it, the pressure behind the stillness. Not fear, compliance. He steps closer. The distance is now a violation, a silent one but logged nonetheless. "Your Highness," he says quietly. No response. The boy's shoulders lift a fraction, then settle again, as if bracing. The ribbon twists once in his hand. The guard angles his body slightly, placing himself between the child and the corridor behind. A small adjustment, defensive, unremarkable on camera, significant in practice. A voice cuts into his earpiece, controlled, measured. Hold position. The command is calm, authority without urgency. He does not move. The child's breathing changes, a faint hitch, the smallest sound swallowed quickly. The guard lowers his voice. "You're safe here." The words feel insufficient the moment they leave him. From the corner of his eye, he sees the adult figure begin to approach. The shoes are quiet, too quiet for the floor. "Stand down," the voice in his ear repeats, sharper now. Protocol says he should step aside. Protocol says the corridor belongs to senior access for the next 2 minutes. Protocol says the child will be escorted shortly. But the boy's grip tightens around the ribbon. His knuckles blanch further. His gaze lifts, not to the approaching figure, but to the guard. It is not a look of fear. It is a look of instruction. The guard makes a choice that cannot be undone. He shifts fully into the child's path, blocking the line of approach. The corridor seems to hold its breath. "Confirm your position," the voice demands. The guard does not answer. The footsteps behind him stop. Silence presses in from all sides. The silence stretches long enough to become noticeable. The guard feels it first in the back of his neck, that subtle awareness when attention turns toward him. The corridor hasn't changed, but its weight has. Cameras still hum. The lights still cast their clean, neutral glow. Yet everything feels paused, as if the building itself is waiting to see which rule will break first. "Identify," the voice in his earpiece says again. Calm, controlled, no raised volume, that makes it worse. He does not respond. Behind him, the child exhales, a shallow release that barely stirs the air. The guard shifts his stance just enough to widen his frame, shielding the boy without touching him. His boots plant firmly, a defensive posture disguised as stillness. The approaching figure stops a few paces away. The guard does not turn. He doesn't need to. He knows the silhouette. He's seen it in briefings, on secure feeds, moving through controlled spaces with unquestioned access. This is not someone who is supposed to be challenged in a corridor. "Step aside," the figure says quietly. No title, no name. Authority doesn't need to announce itself. The guard feels the instruction settle against him like pressure underwater. He calculates in fractions of a second. Distance to the nearest Jun. CD on, response time of nearby units, camera angles, the child's proximity. Every option tightens the same way, none of them clean. "State purpose," the guard says. It is a deviation, small but recorded. A pause, the kind that suggests irritation being managed rather than felt. "That is not your concern." The boy shifts again. A barely audible sound escapes him, not a cry, not a word. The guard feels it more than hears it, a sound made when someone is trying very hard not to be noticed. The guard's jaw tightens. "Then you won't mind waiting," he says evenly. The corridor's temperature seems to drop. Somewhere behind him, a door opens and closes. Movement continues elsewhere in the palace, but here, time thickens. The voice in his earpiece returns, lower now. "You are exceeding your authority." He exhales slowly. "I'm maintaining safety." A beat. "Stand down." The command is sharper, final. The guard glances down just enough to catch the child's eyes again. They are wide now, not pleading, watching, measuring. The ribbon slips from the boy's hand and lands softly on the polished floor. That sounds soft, almost nothing breaks something. The guard steps forward. It is not aggressive, not sudden, but it is undeniable. He positions himself directly between the child and the approaching figure, fully obstructing the path. "This area is secure," he says. "Access is temporarily restricted." Silence explodes into motion. Footsteps echo at the far end of the corridor, faster now. Voices murmur through comms. Someone says his designation aloud for the first time. The figure in front of him does not move back. "You're making this difficult," they say quietly. The guard meets their gaze for the first time. What he sees there is not anger. It is calculation, assessment. A decision being revised. Behind him, the child shifts again, closer now. The guard can feel the heat of him, the nearness. A small hand brushes the back of his glove, then retreats. That is enough. The guard raises his hand slightly. Not a weapon, not a signal, but a line drawn in space. "Step away," he says. For a moment, no one breathes. Then the sound of boots accelerates down the corridor. Too many. The situation is no longer contained. And the guard knows, with sudden clarity, that whatever happens next will not be corrected quietly. It will be recorded, and someone will make him answer for it. The first uniformed response reaches them in seconds, too fast to be coincidence. Boots strike the marble in controlled rhythm, 4 sets, then 6. Not a rush, a convergence. The guard registers each arrival without turning his head. He knows their formations, their habits, the way command moves when it believes control is slipping. No one touches him yet. That is deliberate. The senior officer stops 3 paces away, close enough to assert presence, far enough to avoid escalation on record. His expression is neutral, professional, carefully emptied of meaning. "Step back," he says quietly. The guard does not move. Behind him, the child has gone still again, not frozen, listening. The boy's breathing has slowed into shallow precision. the way children do when they've learned that sound brings consequence. The guard angles his shoulder slightly, shielding more of the child's body from view. He feels the heat of him now, the faint tremor that travels through the air rather than through touch. This is a restricted corridor, the senior officer continues. You are obstructing a protected route. The guard answers without raising his voice. This corridor is active, child present, safeguard applies. The senior officer's eyes flick just briefly toward the boy. A calculation passes through them, quick, practiced, cold. Then they return to the guard. You are exceeding your remit. The words are measured, official, rehearsed. The guard doesn't argue, he doesn't justify, he simply doesn't move. Behind the senior officer, more personnel arrive, spacing themselves with professional care. No one draws attention. No one escalates, but the geometry of the corridor has changed. The guard is now contained from 3 sides. A voice comes through his earpiece, not command, not local security. Higher. Identify your obstruction, the voice says. The guard inhales once. Minor in distress. Protective intervention initiated. There is a pause, long enough to feel deliberate. Negative, the voice replies. No distress logged. The guard feels the shift in the air. That sentence is not a disagreement. It is a correction of reality. He glances down again. The boy has turned slightly, shoulders angled inward. His gaze is fixed on the floor, but his feet have moved closer to the guard's boots. Not touching, seeking proximity without asking. The guard's jaw tightens. Logging discrepancy, he says calmly. Silence answers him. The senior officer steps closer now. You're creating a situation that doesn't exist. The guard meets his eyes, then explain why he's shaking. TA. Officer looks down at the child for a fraction of a second. The boy flinches. That is enough. The officer straightens. That's not your assessment to make. A quiet click sounds behind them, a door unlocking somewhere deeper in the corridor. The guard hears it clearly, too clearly. He shifts his stance again, widening his base. This time it is unmistakable. Stand down, the officer says. His tone hardens. This is your final instruction. The guard does not answer. The boy's breathing stutters. His hand lifts halfway, then stops, uncertain where to go. The guard makes a decision. He reaches back without looking and lowers his hand slightly, palm open. The boy's fingers close around 2 of them. It is a small contact, almost nothing. But it changes everything. The corridor seems to inhale. Someone swears quietly over comms. The senior officer's expression hardens. You're compromising the perimeter. I'm holding it, the guard replies. For a moment, no one moves. Then, from somewhere beyond the assembled personnel, a new voice enters the channel, calm, composed, and unmistakably higher authority. That will be enough, it says. Every head turns. The guard does not release the child's hand. And he knows with certainty now that whatever happens next will no longer be contained to this corridor. The new voice carries weight without raising volume. It doesn't need to. Every radio in the corridor goes silent at once. Even the ambient hum of movement seems to hesitate, as if the building itself is listening. The guard does not turn. He doesn't need to. He knows that voice. Everyone here does. Release the child, the voice says. Not a command, a conclusion. The guard feels the boy's fingers tighten around his own. A reflex, not a choice. The pressure is light but deliberate. A decision made without words. He inhales slowly, keeping his posture neutral. With respect, he says, I can't. The pause that follows is dangerous. It stretches too long for comfort, long enough for consequences to form. Explain, the voice says. The guard's mind moves quickly. He does not explain motive. He does not accuse. He frames it as procedure, the only safe language left to him. There is a distress indicator, he says. Nonverbal, consistent with avoidance response. I am maintaining protective proximity until a welfare confirmation is completed. Silence again. Somewhere behind the assembled personnel, a door opens and closes. Soft, controlled. The sound travels cleanly through the corridor. The boy stiffens. The guard feels it instantly. "Stay with me," he murmurs, barely audible. The boy does not look up. His grip tightens. The voice returns, cooler now. "You are misinterpreting behavior." "Then verify it," the guard replies. A pause, a recalculation. "Step aside," the voice says. "We will handle verification." The guard's pulse quickens, but his posture does not change. "Negative," he replies. "Verification must occur in open visibility." That lands. A murmur ripples through the personnel, small, controlled movements, exchanged looks. Nothing overt, everything recorded. The senior officer steps closer again, lowering his voice. "You're isolating yourself." The guard doesn't answer. He's listening instead to the boy's breathing, to the slight hitch that keeps repeating, to the quiet sound of fabric shifting behind him. Fear, contained but real. The boy's free hand presses briefly against his own chest, then drops again. A nervous motion, a practiced one. The guard feels something tight inside his ribs. The voice on comm speaks again, slower this time. "You are compromising operational integrity." The guard finally turns his head slightly, just enough to let the cameras catch his profile. "Then log it," he says. "Log that I chose the child." The words hang there. No one speaks. No one moves. And then softly another voice enters the channel. Different tone, measured, female. "Stand by," it says. A ripple passes through the assembled officers. This is not part of the expected chain. The senior officer's jaw tightens. The new voice continues. "Hold all movement. Do not advance." The guard exhales slowly, not in relief but in readiness. Behind him, the child shifts closer, not clinging, not hiding. Choosing. The guard adjusts his stance to accommodate the small weight now, resting lightly against his side. Footsteps approach from the far end of the corridor, slower than before, deliberate, unhurried. Authority of a different kind. The tension doesn't ease, it sharpens. The guard knows this moment will be reviewed, replayed, dissected. Every angle, every breath. And he also knows something else now. Whatever happens next will not be solved with orders. It will require a line to be crossed by someone. The footsteps stop just out of view. A shadow stretches across the polished floor. The guard keeps his eyes forward. The child does not move. The shadow reaches them before the person does. It stretches across the marble, long and deliberate, stopping just short of the guard's boots. The light shifts as someone steps into the corridor's full glow. No rush, no hesitation. The guard does not turn immediately. He waits, not out of defiance but calculation. Whoever this is wants to be seen. "Step aside," the voice says. It is calm, composed, and unmistakably accustomed to obedience. The guard turns his head slightly this time, enough to acknowledge presence without surrendering position. The figure standing before him wears no uniform, no insignia, authority without decoration, the kind that does not need symbols. The child stiffens. The guard feels it through the contact at his side, a subtle tightening, a quiet withdrawal. The boy's breathing shortens again, uneven now. "State your intent," the guard says. The figure's eyes flick briefly toward the child, then return to the guard. The look is not hostile, it is assessing, measuring risk, not emotion. "You are obstructing a protected movement," the figure replies. "You will step aside." Behind them, the corridor remains frozen. No one speaks, no one intervenes. Cameras continue to watch. The guard's pulse beats steadily in his ears. Negative, he says. The child is distressed. A pause. The figure tilts their head slightly, as if reconsidering something already decided. You're mistaken. The boy's hand tightens again, this time not in fear but in warning. His fingers press once quickly against the guard's glove. A signal. The guard glances down just long enough to see the boy's other hand clench near his side. Empty. No object now, only tension. What are you afraid of? The figure asks. The guard answers without looking away, that he's been told not to speak. The corridor seems to contract. A flicker crosses the figure's expression, not anger, not surprise, recognition. You're drawing conclusions, the figure says. I'm observing behavior, the guard replies. The air tightens. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door closes. Somewhere else, a lift hums softly, indifferent. The figure takes a single step closer. This ends now, they say. The guard does not move. He feels the child's shoulder brush his arm, not seeking protection, offering alignment, a small act of trust. The guard inhales once, steadying himself. I can't allow that, he says. The figure's gaze hardens. You're making a mistake. Then record it, the guard replies. Silence stretches again, heavier this time, the kind that presses on the chest. The figure lifts a hand slightly, not in threat, not in command, a signal. Somewhere behind the guard, boots shift. The perimeter tightens. The guard knows what comes next. Intervention. Formal, clean, final. He shifts his stance subtly, placing his body fully between the child and the approaching presence. His hand moves, not to a weapon, but to a position of balance. The child's breathing steadies. A voice cuts through the tension, not loud, but sharp enough to fracture it. That's far enough. Everyone turns. A woman steps into view, her presence altering the air instantly. She wears no insignia either, but unlike the others, she does not wait to be acknowledged. Her eyes go first to the child, then to the guard, then to the figure opposite them. This situation is being mishandled, she says calmly, and you know it. The corridor holds its breath. The guard does not relax. He knows this is the moment where lines are redrawn. And once redrawn, they do not move back. No one speaks at first. The woman's presence does not demand silence, it assumes it. The air adjusts around her, not through volume or force, but through recognition. This is someone accustomed to being obeyed without explanation. She steps forward one pace, not toward the guard, toward the child. The guard reacts instantly, shifting half a step to block her path, not aggressive, defensive, precise. Her eyes flick to him, then down to the child's hand still resting near his side. Move, she says quietly. The guard does not. I will not repeat myself. The guard swallows once. I can't allow proximity until welfare is verified. The woman studies him, head tilted slightly, as though reevaluating something she thought she understood. When she speaks again, her tone is cooler. You're confusing instinct with authority. Then correct me, he replies, with transparency. A flicker of irritation crosses her face, gone in an instant but present long enough to be real. She turns her gaze to the child. You're safe, she says gently. You can come with me. The boy does not move. His breathing hitches just once. The guard feels it through the air between them, a decision forming under pressure. The woman notices too. Her jaw tightens. Why won't you come forward? She asks, keeping her voice calm. The child's fingers curl tighter, brushing the guard's glove again, not gripping but signaling. A warning, a plea, something learned. The guard speaks before the boy can be forced to. He's not refusing, he's regulating. That lands differently. The woman's eyes narrow. You're projecting. No, the guard says quietly. I'm observing. The silence stretches. Then, without raising her voice, the woman says, "You're out of line." "I know." A subtle shift ripples through the surrounding personnel. Someone steps back. Someone else adjusts position. The balance tilts just slightly. The woman exhales through her nose. "You're risking your career." The guard doesn't answer. "You're risking more than that," she adds. He meets her gaze fully now. So is he. The corridor holds its breath. A low tone pulses from the far end, a system alert, muted but unmistakable. The building acknowledging a procedural irregularity. The woman's eyes flick toward the source of the sound, just for a moment. That's all the guard needs. He shifts his weight again, angling his body so the child is fully shielded. His stance is no longer passive. It is defensive, declarative. "You can't do this," the woman says quietly. "I already have," he replies. Behind them, someone mutters into a comm. Another voice responds, urgent, clipped. Something is changing beyond this corridor. The child presses closer now, no longer trying to hide it. His shoulder rests against the guard's side. Trust, unguarded and heavy. The woman looks at the child again, then at the guard. "You're making this public," she says. The guard doesn't look away. It already is. The sound of approaching steps grows louder, not hurried but numerous. The rhythm of coordinated movement. The woman exhales slowly, her composure shifting into calculation. "Very well," she says. "We'll proceed differently." Her gaze sharpens. But understand this, once this line is crossed, there is no quiet way back. The guard feels the weight of that truth settle in his chest. The footsteps draw closer. The child does not move. Neither does the guard. The approaching footsteps are heavier now, coordinated, measured, not rushed, controlled. The guard feels the rhythm before he hears it fully. A formation moving with purpose, not urgency. That alone tells him this has already been elevated beyond him. The woman beside him adjusts her stance, subtly aligning herself with the incoming presence rather than against it. She does not look at the child again. "You should step back," she says, her voice low. "This will escalate quickly." The guard does not respond. The child's shoulder presses closer, seeking stability without asking for it. The guard shifts just enough to absorb the movement, grounding them both. The footsteps stop. A new voice speaks, older, restrained, carrying institutional weight. "Report." The woman turns slightly. Deviation from protocol. Guard refusing to disengage from subject. The guard listens carefully to what she does not say. No mention of distress. No mention of the child's condition. No mention of the irregularities. The new voice hums softly in acknowledgement. Reason. He believes there is a welfare risk. A pause. Belief is not evidence. The guard finally speaks. It is when the system is the risk. Silence spreads again, thicker now, edged with consequence. The new voice exhales. "You're asserting misconduct." "I'm asserting harm," the guard replies. Another pause. "Stand down," the voice says. "We'll take custody." The word custody lands wrong, too procedural, too final. The boy stiffens instantly. His fingers clutch the guard's sleeve for the first time, not a brush now, but a grip. The guard feels the tremor travel through the contact. "No," he says quietly. A ripple passes through the gathered personnel. Someone shifts weight. Someone else inhales sharply. The woman's tone hardens. "You're compromising operational integrity." The guard doesn't argue. Instead, he looks down at the child. The boy's eyes are wet now, but no tears fall. His jaw is tight, teeth pressed together as if holding something inside. The guard recognizes the look. He's seen it before, not fear, not panic. Containment. The guard straightens. "He's been instructed not to speak," he says calmly. "That alone breaches safeguarding." "That's speculation," the woman snaps. No, he replies, that's training. The corridor seems to contract around them. The voice from command speaks again, slower this time. You are exceeding your authority. Yes, the guard answers. A sharp intake of breath comes from somewhere behind them. You are placing yourself in direct opposition to command, the voice continues. I know. A silence follows, not empty, but heavy with recalculation. Then quietly, step aside. The guard does not move. The child presses closer. The guard adjusts his stance, grounding them both, feet set firmly. He is aware now of cameras angling microscopically, lenses adjusting, of logs updating, of decisions being recorded for later interpretation. He knows this moment will be dissected frame by frame. He also knows something else. If he steps aside now, there will be no record of what happened next. Negative, he says calmly. The silence that follows is different. It carries weight. Then, without warning, the lights dim slightly, a procedural override signaling controlled access restriction. The corridor shifts into containment mode. The guard's pulse spikes once, then steadies. This is no longer a warning. This is a response. The lights do not go out. They dim just enough to signal authority has overridden autonomy. A procedural shadow falls across the corridor. The guard feels it instantly. The temperature shifts. The air pressure changes. The building has entered containment logic. A low tone pulses once through the floor. Not an alarm, a confirmation. The woman exhales slowly, her posture tightening. You've forced escalation. The guard does not answer. His focus narrows to the boy's breathing, shallow, uneven, but still controlled. The child's fingers curl into the fabric of his sleeve, not in panic, but in anchoring. The guard lowers his voice. Stay with me. The boy nods once, almost imperceptibly. Footsteps move again, closer, heavier. This time they are not hesitant. Two figures step forward from the cluster, uniforms marked with internal security insignia. Their hands remain visible, but their stance is practiced and firm. Last warning, the senior voice says. Release the minor. The guard shakes his head once. No drama, no anger. No. A beat. Then the woman speaks again, quieter now. You're making this worse for him. The guard finally looks at her fully. No, he says. I'm stopping it from becoming invisible. The words hang there, dangerous, accusatory. The woman's jaw tightens. She turns her head slightly, just enough to signal the security officers. They move. Not rushing, not lunging, advancing with intent. The guard shifts instantly, widening his stance, placing his body fully between the child and the approaching figures. His hand rises not in threat, but in warning. Do not touch him, he says. One of the officers hesitates. The other continues forward. The child flinches. The guard reacts without thinking. He steps sideways, guiding the child behind his leg, using his own body as a barrier. The movement is fluid, trained, protective. Stop, the guard says sharply. The officer halts inches away. Silence crashes down. Everyone feels it, the moment when this becomes something else entirely. The woman exhales through her nose. This is unnecessary. No, the guard replies. What's unnecessary is secrecy. Her eyes flash. You're not authorized. I'm responsible, he interrupts. The corridor holds its breath. The child presses closer, his hand gripping fabric now, knuckles pale. The guard feels it, fear but also trust, heavy, unavoidable. The woman's gaze flicks to the cameras, then back to the guard. She lowers her voice. You don't know what you're disrupting. I know exactly what I'm preventing. Another pause, longer this time. Then unexpectedly, the woman lifts a hand. The approaching officers stop. Her voice is measured, controlled. Stand down. They hesitate, then comply, stepping back half a pace. The guard doesn't relax, he doesn't thank her. The woman's eyes return to the child. Her expression changes, not softening but recalibrating. "You should not be here," she says quietly. "This was never meant to involve you." The boy does not respond. The guard speaks instead, "Then remove him from it." Silence. The woman considers him for a long moment. Then she nods once. "Very well," she says, "but understand this, what you've done cannot be undone." She turns slightly and speaks into her calm. "Initiate alternate transfer, secure route, no visibility." The words hit the corridor like a shockwave. The guard's breath catches, not in relief but realization. This is not resolution. This is containment. The lights subtly brighten again. The building exhales. The woman looks back at him one last time. "You've bought him time," she says, "nothing more." The guard meets her gaze. Time is enough. She turns away. The corridor begins to move again, personnel shifting, protocols resuming, but nothing feels normal. The guard looks down at the child. The boy's grip loosens slightly. But he doesn't let go. Movement returns to the corridor, but it is controlled now, too controlled. The kind that pretends nothing has changed while quietly accounting for everything that has. The guard feels it immediately. The air no longer presses in, it observes. The child stays close, no longer gripping but not stepping away either. His breathing has steadied, though his shoulders remain tense, braced for something he expects to happen again. The woman walks ahead without looking back. Her posture is composed, but the tightness in her steps betrays calculation. She is already restructuring the situation in her mind, fitting this disruption into something manageable. "Proceed," she says to no one in particular. The corridor opens ahia. Doors unlocking in sequence with muted precision. The route is not the one they arrived through. The guard notices. "Where are we going?" he asks. "Somewhere quieter," she replies, "where this doesn't become a spectacle." The guard doesn't respond, but his awareness sharpens. Quiet can mean many things. The child hesitates at the threshold of the new corridor. The guard feels the pause before he sees it, the slight resistance in the child's step, the hesitation before moving forward. The guard slows with him. "You're okay," he murmurs, not as reassurance but as acknowledgement. The boy looks up briefly. His eyes flick to the ceiling, then to the walls, checking, measuring. The corridor beyond is narrower, softer lighting, fewer cameras, not fewer blind spots, controlled ones. The guard's pulse tightens. This is not safer, it's contained. They move forward anyway. Behind them, the sound of boots fades. Ahead, the hum of systems grows steadier, deeper, the building's internal spine. The woman stops near a junction. "We'll separate here." The guard's posture hardens instantly. "No." She turns to face him. "This isn't negotiable." "It is," he says, "if the child stays with me." Her expression shifts, irritation, then something closer to fatigue. "You're holding on to a moment," she says. "You don't understand the scope." "Then explain it," he replies. She hesitates, just a fraction. "That's not how this works." The boy's breathing changes again, shallow, quicker. The guard feels the movement through his sleeve. The woman notices, her jaw tightens. "Fine," she says, "he comes with you for now." The guard does not thank her. They move again. The corridor narrows further, walls close enough that sound doesn't travel far. The lighting here is softer, warmer, meant to calm. It does not. The guard senses eyes on them, unseen, observation without presence. "Where are we?" he asks. "A holding wing," she replies, "temporary." "For who?" She doesn't answer. They stop at a door that looks like every other door, no markings, no signage, just a biometric panel and a soft indicator light. The woman gestures, inside. The guard hesitates. The child tugs gently at his sleeve, not in fear now but urgency. The guard exhales and steps forward. The door opens silently. Inside is a small, controlled space. Clean, minimal, a table, 2 chairs, no windows. Not a cell. Not a room meant to be lived in. A place meant for waiting. The door closes behind them with a muted seal. The guard turns slowly, scanning. "Why here?" he asks. The woman remains outside. Her voice comes through the panel, filtered but clear. "Because now," she says, "we need to decide what you've made impossible." The light shifts subtly overhead. The lock engages. The guard looks down at the child. The boy meets his gaze. For the first time he speaks. "I wasn't supposed to tell." The words land heavy. The guard's chest tightens. "What weren't you supposed to tell?" he asks gently. The child swallows. "About the room." The lights flicker once, and then go steady. The words hang between them, heavy and unfinished. "The room," the guard repeats quietly. The child nods once, small, controlled. His eyes drop to the floor as if the tiles might offer safety. The guard lowers himself slightly, not crouching, not kneeling, just reducing his height enough to ease the space between them. He keeps his hands visible, open. "What kind of room?" he asks. The boy hesitates. His breathing tightens again, shallow but steady. This is not panic, it's restraint, learned restraint. "A quiet one," the boy says, "with no windows." The guard feels something tighten behind his ribs. "Who took you there?" he asks. The child's mouth opens, then closes. His fingers twist together, knuckles whitening. "I wasn't supposed to remember," he whispers. The guard's jaw sets. "Did someone tell you that?" he asks gently. A nod. "Who?" The child doesn't answer. His eyes flick to the door, then to the ceiling, then back to the floor. The guard follows the movement. There's a camera embedded near the corner, small, nearly invisible, watching. He exhales slowly, steadying his voice. "You're not in trouble," he says. "You haven't done anything wrong." The boy swallows. "They said I would be." A cold weight settles in the guard's chest. "Who said that?" The child hesitates longer this time. When he speaks, his voice is barely more than breath. "The people who decide." The guard straightens slightly. Before he can respond, the panel beside the door lights up. A soft chime sounds. The woman's voice comes through, controlled but taut. "We need to move him." The guard looks at the door. "Why?" "Because this space is no longer secure." He exhales sharply. "You said this was temporary." "It was," she replies. "Circumstances have changed." "Because he talked," the guard says. Silence. That tells him everything. He glances down at the boy. The child's shoulders have drawn inward, as if trying to become smaller. He looks up again, searching the guard's face. "They're mad," he says quietly. "No," the guard replies. "They're afraid." The words seem to confuse him. The panel lights again. "Open the door," the woman says. "We don't have time." The guard doesn't move. "What's on the other side?" he asks. A pause too long. "Another secure location." "Where?" "Where he'll be safe." The guard exhales through his nose. "You said that last time." Silence. The boy's hand finds his sleeve again, firmer now. The guard's voice lowers. "You don't have to go anywhere you don't want to." The child shakes his head quickly. "They'll make it worse." The guard's jaw tightens. "How?" The boy hesitates, then whispers, "They'll say I lied." The words hit with quiet force. The guard straightens slowly, anger rising beneath his composure. "You didn't lie," he says. The child doesn't respond. He just looks at the floor. The panel lights again, brighter this time. We're out of time, the woman says. Open the door. The guard steps between the door and the child. No. A pause. Then softer, you're putting him in danger. The guard answers without hesitation. You already did. Silence presses in again. Then something shifts, not a sound but a change in tone, a recalibration. Stand by, the woman says. The light dims. Footsteps approach from the corridor, heavier than before, more numerous. The guard feels the air tighten. This is not negotiation anymore. He places himself fully in front of the child. Stay behind me, he murmurs. The child nods, stepping closer. The door's lock clicks once. Then again. The guard sets his stance. Whatever comes next will not be a conversation. The second click of the lock is slower than the first. Deliberate. The guard recognizes the cadence, a manual override layered over an automated system. Someone has taken control. He shifts his stance, angling his body so the child is fully shielded. The space behind him feels suddenly smaller, the walls closer. The air hum deepens, a low vibration running through the floor. Stay behind me, he murmurs again. The boy doesn't answer, but the warmth of his presence presses closer. A small hand tightens against the back of the guard's jacket. The door slides open a fraction. Not enough to enter. Enough to show intent. Beyond it, a corridor stretches out, darker than the one they came from, stripped of ornament, lined with recessed lights that cast narrow bands across the floor. 3 figures stand just beyond the threshold. Not guards. Administrators. The kind who don't wear insignia because they don't need to. The one in front steps forward, older, controlled, eyes sharp with calculation rather than authority. This has gone far enough, he says calmly. The guard does not move. You're obstructing a protected internal process, the man continues. Step aside and this ends cleanly. The guard's jaw tightens, define clean. A pause. Without incident. The guard glances down. The child's breathing is shallow again, controlled but strained. His fingers are cold now, rigid where they grip the fabric. Who authorized the room? The guard asks. The man's eyes flicker, not in surprise but in irritation. That's classified. The guard nods once, then this stops here. The man exhales, slow and measured. You don't understand what you're interfering with. I understand exactly enough, the guard replies. The other 2 figures shift subtly, angling themselves to either side of the doorway. A containment posture, not aggressive, prepared. The guard notes it all, distance, weight distribution, escape vectors narrowing. Behind him, the child's breath hitches. The guard feels it like a pull against his spine. Listen to me, the man says, voice low. This child is part of a controlled program, nothing illegal, nothing unsanctioned. The guard meets his gaze, then say it out loud. Silence. Say what you're doing to him, the guard presses. The man's expression hardens. That information is restricted. That's what I thought. The room seems to tighten around them. The man steps closer, lowering his voice. You're not protecting him. You're delaying the inevitable. The guard's reply is immediate. I'm changing the outcome. The man's mouth tightens. You're one man. The guard doesn't deny it. You don't have the authority, the man continues. You don't have the clearance, and in about 30 seconds you won't have the support. The guard feels the truth in that statement like pressure behind his eyes. Still, he doesn't move. The child shifts slightly behind him, not in fear this time, but with intent. The guard feels the boy's hand press flat against his back, as if grounding himself. The man notices. Something flickers across his face, annoyance, maybe uncertainty. You don't know what you're teaching him, the man says. The guard exhales slowly. I'm teaching him that someone will stand when it matters. The man's gaze hardens. That lesson will cost. To you. Maybe, the guard replies, but it won't cost him. The corridor fills with a low tone, a system alert, deeper than before. A voice echoes faintly through the space, not from a speaker but from the building itself. Containment escalation authorized. The guard's muscles tense. The man steps back. The doors begin to slide wider. And the lights shift to red. The red light does not flash. It bleeds. A slow, steady wash across the corridor, draining warmth from every surface. The sound changes too, a low, pulsing resonance that vibrates through the floor and into the bones. Containment. The guard tightens his stance instinctively. His breathing steadies even as his pulse spikes. This is no longer protocol pressure. This is system authority asserting control. The child stiffens behind him. The man at the threshold takes a half step back, not in fear, but in deference. The system has moved beyond him now. Stay where you are, the man says, but the command lacks weight. He's no longer in charge. A panel along the wall illuminates. Lines of data flicker too fast to read. The guard scans the space, exits narrowing, environmental controls shifting. The room is being reclassified. Containment doesn't mean safety. It means isolation. The child's breathing grows uneven again. The guard feels it immediately. Look at me, he murmurs, lowering his head slightly so the boy can see his face. Just me. The child obeys, eyes wide but focused. The door behind them begins to seal, not with force, with inevitability. A calm voice replaces the previous one, deeper, less human in its neutrality. Containment phase active. Please remain stationary. The guard clenches his jaw. Override, he says clearly. No response. The floor vibrates as secondary locks engage. The man near the door glances back once, uncertainty flickering across his face. You're making this worse. The guard doesn't look at him. You already did. The red light deepens. The air shifts cooler, filtered, sterile. The child shivers. The guard steps closer, shielding him fully now, his body a barrier against whatever comes next. You're safe, he says quietly. I won't move. The boy nods once, trust absolute and terrifying. A soft hiss sounds from the ceiling. The guard looks up. Thin vents slide open. His breath catches. No, he says sharply. The man by the door stiffens. That's not supposed to. The room hums louder. The guard reacts instantly, reaching for the child, pulling him closer, turning his body to shield his face. Cover your mouth, he says urgently. The child obeys without question. A faint mist begins to spill from the vents, not thick, not dramatic, almost invisible. The guard feels his lungs tighten. This isn't gas meant to incapacitate quickly. It's meant to calm, to dull, to erase resistance. His jaw clenches. He holds his breath, counting silently. The child's fingers dig into his jacket. Stay awake, the guard murmurs. Stay with me. The mist thickens. His vision blurs at the edges. Through it, he sees the man at the door recoil slightly, not immune. This wasn't approved. The man snaps into his calm. The system doesn't answer. The guard's knees threaten to buckle. He drops to one knee, still shielding the child, forcing his body to take the brunt of it. The world narrows to breath and pressure. The child whispers something too soft to hear. The guard strains closer. What? He asks. The boy presses his forehead against the guard's shoulder. I remember the room, he whispers. They said I wouldn't. The guard's chest tightens. The lights flicker. Somewhere beyond the walls, something changes, a system fails, or someone intervenes. The mist thins slightly. The guard's vision swims, but he holds on. The child is still conscious. Barely. Footsteps echo suddenly, fast, urgent, multiple. A voice cuts through the haze, sharp and furious. Abort, abort now. The mist stutters, then stops. The lights flicker, struggling back toward white. The guard exhales, shaking, holding the child upright as the world steadies. But he knows with absolute certainty. This was never meant to be stopped. And whoever stopped it just exposed themselves. The lights stabilize slowly, as if the building itself is reluctant to return to normal. The red fades to pale white. The hum lowers, not gone, but subdued, a restrained animal rather than a released one. The guard stays where he is, one knee down, the child still pressed against him. His lungs burn, his head swims, but he stays upright by force of will alone. Footsteps rush in from both ends of the corridor now, hurried, uneven, no longer controlled. The clean choreography of authority has broken. A voice cuts through the noise, sharp, furious. Who authorized the release? No answer comes. Another voice, closer this time. Systems are rolling back, manual override engaged. The guard feels hands reach toward him, not aggressively, but cautiously. He lifts one hand slightly in warning. NG. Don't, he says hoarsely. The hands stop. A figure steps into view, kneeling slightly to meet his eye level. Not one of the administrators. Someone lower, operational, concerned. Are you injured? Child first, the guard replies. The figure nods and glances toward the boy. He's breathing, conscious. The child shifts weakly, eyes fluttering. He clings again, not in panic, in instinct. The guard exhales slowly. Relief flickers, but it doesn't settle. Because he knows what comes next. Footsteps approach with intention, now measured, confident. Authority regathering itself. The woman from before steps into view, her expression controlled but strained. She takes in the scene in a single glance. The guard kneeling, the child clinging, the halted systems, the watching personnel. Her jaw tightens. You've crossed a line, she says. The guard looks up at her. You crossed it first. Her eyes flick to the child. Something unreadable passes through them. Irritation, calculation, perhaps something else. You don't understand the consequences, she says. Then explain them, the guard replies. She hesitates. That hesitation speaks louder than any answer. Behind her, a senior official leans in, murmuring something urgently. She listens without looking away from the guard. No, she says quietly, not yet. She turns back to him. You've created a problem we can't erase. The guard nods once. Good. Her lips thin. You think this ends with you standing here, she asks. This system doesn't bend for one act of defiance. The guard doesn't argue. I know, he says, that's why I stayed. A beat. The child shifts again, his breathing more even now. His fingers loosen slightly from the guard's sleeve. The woman notices. She exhales through her nose. Get medical here, she orders someone off screen, quietly. Then she looks back at the guard. You're not being arrested. The guard stiffens. That's worse. You're being reassigned. He absorbs the words slowly. Effective immediately, she continues. You will be removed from direct proximity duties. You will not be near him again. The child's fingers tense. The guard's jaw tightens. You can't guarantee his safety, he says. She meets his gaze evenly. Neither can you. Silence stretches again. The guard looks down at the child. The boy looks back up at him, searching. The guard lowers his voice. Listen to me, he says gently. You did nothing wrong. The boy nods faintly. I'm going to step away, the guard continues. But that doesn't mean I'm gone. The child's eyes glisten. The guard straightens slowly, carefully disengaging the child's grip. The moment their hands separate feels heavier than any restraint. The woman steps closer, placing herself between them, not aggressively but decisively. "This is as far as you go," she says. The guard takes a breath. He turns away. Behind him, the child whispers something too soft to hear. The guard pauses. He does not turn back, because if he does, he may not leave at all. The corridor feels longer as he walks away. Every step is measured, deliberate, not because he lacks urgency, but because he refuses to give the system the satisfaction of seeing him break posture. His breathing steadies as he moves, even though something inside him has fractured cleanly. Behind him, the air changes. Not silence, containment. Doors slide into place. Protocol reasserts itself like a living thing regaining balance. He does not look back. He knows if he does, he won't leave. The sound of the child's breathing fades with distance, replaced by the quiet efficiency of an institution resuming control. A turn, another corridor. The lighting here is colder, more neutral. The walls are bare, purpose-built to erase emotion. A door opens ahead of him without request. Inside, a narrow room. No insignia, no chairs, just a table, a terminal, and two figures waiting. One of them he recognizes. Oversight, the kind that rarely appears unless something has gone wrong. "Sit," the figure says. He does. The door seals with a soft finality. There is no hostility here, no raised voices, just precision. "You've compromised a controlled environment," the figure says calmly. "I intervened," the guard replies. That distinction is irrelevant. The guard leans forward slightly. The child was being conditioned. A pause. The figure's expression does not change. The child was being protected. "From what?" the guard asks. Silence stretches, not avoidance, calculation. "From instability," the figure replies. "From influence, from weakness." The guard's jaw tightens. "From being heard." The other figure shifts uncomfortably. The first one exhales slowly. "You misunderstand the scope of this institution." "No," the guard says. "I understand it very clearly now." A brief pause. "You've made yourself a liability," the figure continues. "Not because you acted, but because others saw you act." The guard nods. "I expected that." "You won't return to active duty." "Why?" "I know." "You will not be allowed contact with the child." "I know." The room is silent again. The figure studies him. "Why did you do it?" The guard does not answer immediately. When he does, his voice is steady, because he was told not to speak, and he obeyed. Something shifts in the room, small, almost imperceptible. The figure looks away. "Your file will be sealed," they say. "Your record softened." The guard exhales quietly, and the child. A pause. "He will remain under supervision." The guard's eyes harden. That's not an answer. The figure meets his gaze. "It's the only one you'll get." Silence again. Then quietly, "You'll be escorted out." The guard rises without argument. As he reaches the door, the figure speaks again, softer this time. "You did more than most would." The guard stops but does not turn. "Then do more," he says, "because I can't anymore." The door opens. The corridor beyond is empty. He steps through. Behind him, the door closes, not loudly, not permanently, but with enough finality to mark an ending. As he walks away, something settles in his chest, not peace. Resolve. Somewhere beyond the walls, a child remains in a system that tried to quiet him. And somewhere in that system, a record now exists, a disruption that cannot be erased. The guard walks on, not knowing yet that what he started will not end with him.